All right, welcome panelists.
Thank you.
Can we just go down the line and would you please introduce yourselves?
Hey, I'm Danny. I was class of 2011. I studied film.
Hi, Danny.
Hey.
I'm Charlie. I was class of '08, so that was the first class that went both years through freestyle, and I studied web and audio.
Hi, Charlie.
Hello.
I'm Colin. I graduated last year, so class of 14, and I was in web audio.
Hey, Colin.
Hi, Colin.
Nick, can I ask a favor of you? Could you grab one of those green chairs and bring it back to me? Thanks. There. Okay, cool. So what are you guys up to right now? What are you guys doing in your lives currently?
I'm currently out of school. A couple of years now. I graduated from Cal Arts in 2012. And I moved to Seattle for a year, and then I moved back to the Bay Area, and now I live in the Santa Cruz area. I work as a cook in the day, and then I mix live sound at a jazz club called the Kumbwa in downtown Santa Cruz. Really cool jazz club. Yeah, do a lot of music in my free time.
Right now I'm working at an organization called CK12, so you might get an email from them at the end of the year because I did. They love hiring kids for freestyles. Basically, a lot of people get hired for study aid projects, and you can do a lot of different design aspects within them. So that's why they like freestyle kids, because we already have knowledge on design. But I currently work on an interactive project, and I chose to do that instead because I'm going to engineering at University of Washington in Seattle next year. So it's a little more related to my field of what I'm going to be doing. So I'm working there this summer, and then I'll be done, and I'll go off to college.
I just got back from Bhutan. We were flying drones for medical delivery. Bhutan is this tiny country in the Himalayas with one central hospital in the main city of Thimphu, and then health units scattered that are very difficult to get to. So let's say you go and take a blood test. For a car to deliver your blood test to go get that actually scanned and tested, and then to bring back the results is a very lengthy and difficult process. Or if you need to deliver medicine or syringes, just supplies, it's very difficult for a human or a car to do that. But drones can do it really easily. So we were there with the Prime Minister. Testing drones.
Okay. And what do you guys remember the most about your time at Freestyle? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what kind of student you were and what was particularly valuable for you while you were here.
I can kick this off.
Go for it.
I remember when just the idea of freestyle came up, and there was kind of all this buzz about it, and I was definitely drawn to it because it seemed like this alternative to what I thought was kind of this grind over there in Mountain View. It wasn't super academic in my kind of way of thinking about schoolwork and things like that. It wasn't all about it. I did a lot of art and music in my free time, so when freestyle came around, it seemed like this really cool kind of escape opportunity, way to mix up education. And actually just kind of the nature of it being the first year, 2 years of the program, it was so free-formed, and we'd kind of do a unit and then all talk about it with the teachers and decide what we wanted differently on the next unit. So we were all kind of creating the curriculum while also creating our projects and doing our schoolwork. So I really remember it being this very free, self-directed, independent learning kind of environment, which totally worked for me. I couldn't wait till 1 o'clock to get out of there and come over here and work on a design or an illustration or something like that.
For me, it was kind of, I had a similar reason for coming over here, but I loved doing the academic part. It was more of a grind, but I still was fine with it. But what I learned here was that you had to have a lot more management of yourself. a lot of what we did was what you got out of it was what you put into it.
One
so.
weekend, we poured 6,000 ladybugs on this one guy. That was an awesome photo. One weekend, we poured 14 pounds of honey on this guy. Like these projects, this is your opportunity to do this.
Okay, sounds like a pretty cooperative subject. When you guys came to freestyle, did you pretty much know what you wanted to do, or were you, highly shaped by the process of just starting out freestyle as a junior? You guys all started as juniors. What do you think?
I'll kick it off again. I felt like I did know what I wanted to do, and the freedom really allowed me to actually realize that. Maybe going into it, I didn't have all these plans of projects I wanted to do and things like that, but just having that access to the facilities and the equipment and just the time. Like, the time was so valuable to have that long web audio period where you could just buckle down and focus on a technique or a task. And just for me, that was kind of went along with my learning style. So I don't know, I was kind of open to what was available here, and I think that kind of guided me through the program, rather than necessarily having a plan beforehand and then executing that, which I think you could totally work that way here. If you have a film in mind that you want to make or something like that, be economical with the resources. Like, you can use every weekend, with a really nice camera, a really nice recording device. Take advantage of that, because you're not going to always have that.
For me, I was pretty set on what I was going to do, and it was not related to freestyle pretty much at all. At least that's what I thought it was. But I kind of wanted to come here to regain that creative side that I had when I was a kid. That kind of the whole strict and structured program of high school kind of sucked out of me. So I decided I'd try to see what I could get out of freestyle, and it kind of gives you what you need to kind of get that idea of creativity back in your head. Like, the first day we came in, we spray painted books, and we ended up spray painting the whole floor, and Miss P got really mad at us. But it was still like one of those moments, just like the innocent, fun, kid-like state of mind, and that's kind of what I wanted to get back, because when you're going to the real world, people like having people that are creative. That's, if you look at Google, any of the big tech firms, they're looking for people smart, but they're also looking for people that can create and kind of change the style of what's going on. So they want to look at those people as well. So I think that's why freestyle worked out for me, because I had the academic structure that I needed at Mountain View, but I also had this other medium of education that allowed me to kind of balance those two, and it gave me a very good outlet for what I'm going to do in the future.
I think that's crucially important. Art by itself is cool, but a lot of people can do art by itself. But people who can do art plus something else are incredibly interesting. So someone who's really analytical and really likes data, but also has this great ideas for aesthetics or ways of representing data. That person is incredibly fascinating. Or a person who is really into biology, but is able to think creatively about it and display whatever information they find in fascinating and compelling ways. That person's awesome. I think that art not as an ends, but just as a means of being a more interesting person, and more compelling, is really important.
Okay, thank you. Let's get a little bit more specific now about the projects that you felt were the most valuable to you personally at freestyle. Maybe the ones that stoked your creativity and inspired you the most. The ones that really have stuck with you in your lives.
Okay, so my favorite project so far was maybe not, I don't know. It was the most rewarding project I've done. It was the documentary project, because you really get, for me, it was something that I got to go into and kind of find a community that I found that was helping someone, and I think that was very important because it allowed me to present this community to the world that otherwise would not have been presented. So I got to mix. I love doing sports. I love doing the academics. So I went to a facility that did that. So they tutored kids that were at risk, teenagers. They were in gangs in Sunnyvale, and they kind of got them back on the right track. One kid was expelled from Homestead High School, and they got him back into school because he had mentors, and they supported him, and they went to the district board, and he was back in school his junior year. So stuff like that, I think being able to help out those programs and putting them out in the world, and people from all over the world look at freestyle, and they come to our projects, and they look at it, and I think that's kind of something cool that you get to learn how to do here, and it will benefit you definitely in the rest of your life.
You guys have already done documentary because you're seniors, and you know how cool it is to do something that's like not just cool for yourself and for like your friends who watch it, but like cool for the people you make it for. It's like really special. So my junior year, I wanted to do my documentary on drug use in Mountain View. It was like an issue that really affected like me and my friend circle. I was working for at the time for a nonprofit that dealt with like cocaine specifically. It's not for cocaine; it's against cocaine. But there was a lot of like resistance for good reason. No school wants to be associated with a film that comes out that might promote drug use, and there was no promise before I made it. Like, I mean, I was saying like it might look this way, but as a documentary, I wanted to stay unbiased. So there was a lot of resistance, but I felt that this was something that was really important to me. And this documentary ended up being like a really meaningful way to spend a few months. I was able to present it at the end to the Santa Clara Department of Drugs and Alcohol, like sit in on a city meeting and like show a documentary. It ended up on a few nonprofit like websites, which was cool. But like actually making a difference beyond like schoolwork was awesome.
My favorite project, I don't know if my curriculum was as structured as it is now, because we were kind of feeling our way through it, working with the teachers to actually develop probably a lot of the units you're taking. Like we had a self-portrait unit and a biography unit, and I think a narrative unit maybe.
Experimental.
But, yeah, an experimental one. And I remember our senior kind of thesis project was very open, very free-form kind of. They didn't really know what to prompt, so we just kind of worked with the teachers on basically being intuitive and making a project that you just had to kind of invest yourself in, and they kind of gave us some trust as well as a lot of freedom. So I don't know, I kind of intuitively wanted to write pieces of music for it, so I kind of made this storyline and did this what I called a rock opera. In the end, it was like 8 or 9 songs and a story that lyrics that all told the story. So yeah, I mean, what I remember about that project that was really valuable to me just as an artist and as a creative person was having the freedom to basically come here and spend the time, that block of time, however I chose. And a lot of it was just kind of, by myself on one of the computers in the web room, like figuring out some of that software and learning different techniques with it, and working towards a deadline was very important, especially with audio work or, any kind of real design work. I'm very detail and oriented, perfectionistic, so working towards a deadline is not easy at all for me. It was just a good lesson and kind of being self-directed, and it really kind of fed me right into my college experience in terms of that, having to be self-directed, having to meet deadlines, and having when you get to school, it's like the teacher isn't there to kind of nag you and say each week you're supposed to do this and that. They're kind of just like, all right, there's the deadline. This is what I want by then. You have to make it, you have to create it, you have to present it, and just kind of be intuitive about it. So it kind of got me out of my safety zone a little bit, and I remember that project really kind of pushing me, as well as me being able to kind of use tools that I had that I wasn't able to use in other types of curriculum that were more guided. So yeah, I would encourage you to find those opportunities where you can really be free and try things that you wouldn't have in another type of project or classroom setting. and really use your freedom as much as you can here.
Thank you. Go for it.
As do some of you, right when you hear college apps, it's like, oh, rolling the eyes, and I was totally like that. I'll basically say what I said to the other group, because it's just, I remember this being so torturous, and like having to fill out these applications and the essays, and they're like fees, and there's all this pressure, and everyone's asking you about it, and like what schools are you looking at. I only applied to 3 schools, I think, because that was like the minimum that my parents wanted of me. So, what I would have changed is giving myself more options. I'm really happy with the options, and I got super lucky with the results of my applying to colleges, but like you just can't like do enough at this point. The more you set yourself up, just the easier it's going to be on yourself in a year, and really try to be really confident. It might seem like there's a million people applying for the same spot or program, but this place gives you a huge advantage, and it kind of like you. It's good to be hard on yourself, and it's good to push yourself and want to be better, but also just really realize, and kind of blindly realize if you have to, just know that you can be confident in the work that you make here, because not a lot of people have access to this, and people are going on maybe just natural talent, or maybe just maybe they just have the tools to make the art that you're making something similar to, but you've got this huge spectrum here of like great access to facilities and tools, and you all must be pretty creative to want to be here or to be able to be here. So yeah, go into it with confidence, and just try to set yourself up and give yourself options, because you never really know what's going to happen.
For me, so I just did this. Obviously it's definitely a stressful time in your lives. But it's kind of like freestyle. If you procrastinate, it's going to suck. If you get on top of all your stuff you need to do, it's not really that bad. I know I worked with different teachers I had for English, and I had them read some of my stuff. That's a really nice way of getting through your essays. But one thing I didn't use any portfolios or any of that, because I applied for engineering. But I did use freestyle. I actually did go to a college career counselor for one session. Basically, all that did for me was she told me what schools were good for me, and then I was like, I don't need this. It really depends on like what you're doing. I know we have whoever came in last year.
Yes, our college career.
Yeah. So
Miss Katz.
Yeah. So if you're definitely looking to go into an art school, use portfolios. She's a great resource. I know she gives like one free
hour.
Yeah. So I did that. I'm not even going into any storm of art, and I just went to go see what it was like. And she told me a lot about the college process that you would never really think about. So like looking at schools based on programs, not basically looking on like the school as itself. It really doesn't matter what school you go to as long as the programs there fit your needs. So a lot of the schools that I applied for were just like, oh, these are really good schools around the nation, I'll apply for them. But the school that I ended up choosing really wasn't as known. I'm going to University of Washington. It's kind of known, but it's not as known for certain stuff. But a lot of it is based on just knowing that I want to do something in this field, or I have no idea what I'm going to do. So if you have no idea what you're going to do, you can do what I did. I just applied to big schools that were like 20,000 people or bigger, and hope for the best, which I ended up doing. I found out there's a lot of programs at my school that will fit what I want to do. Like there's still digital media there. There's an experimental arts program, and all this other stuff that I had no idea that was there. But just by researching before I applied, I found out I had those opportunities. So I think just going through the process, getting through that tedious work of finding out, oh, what does the school have for me? Not just looking at the numbers and stuff. Just look at what kind of programs are there. Would this be something I want to spend the next 4 years at? And I think that's important.
I don't remember how I tied freestyle into my college apps. I do not remember. and I'm like so not the person to give advice for college apps because I did not succeed. I got into like very few. I applied to many schools. I got into very few, and we had a really limited selection. But like looking back, I think a mistake that I made, like a real mistake that I made, was in high school I was involved in all these different things, which I'm sure all of you are because freestyle, right? So you have like your photography life, but also you might be in debate, and also you do sports, and also you like do these 12 different things. And you're like, this is so cool. Like, this should make me really interesting. But I think it's difficult if you're a recruiter and you're scanning to understand what a person means if they're all these different things. Like, have you ever gone to a landing page and not understood what this product is and left? Like, I think it's kind of the same. And I think if I were to apply again, like now when I apply to jobs, I'm very clear, like, this is the person I am, and everything on there, like, I leave things out if they're not relevant, because everything on the page needs to just be, like, one product, like, easy to sell. I think that's the mistake that I made.
Oh, can I add one thing? So one thing that I didn't actually touch on this when I said it. Every single essay I wrote had something about freestyle. It's just because it's so different that people are just like, because when when they're looking through your application, they want to see something that's different that makes you stand out. There's a lot of people that do sports, academics, different clubs and all that, but not everyone does freestyle. So everything that I did, I chose to write about freestyle, and everything came into that kind of essay. So I kind of started at freestyle, and I molded it around it. And if I had other supplementary essays I could write for that college, then I'd write about other stuff that was related to it, that related to who I was, but my main essays were about freestyle. So I mean, it depends on how interested and how influenced you are by freestyle, but some way incorporate it into what you are going to be doing in your essays.
Yeah, I'll add one thing too, just about portfolios. Like one thing I really focused on, just because I was applying only to art schools, I applied to 2 visual art programs and 1 music program, which I ended up going to. And they all required portfolios, and actually weighed the portfolio. Like this, when I went to Cal Arts, they eventually told me they never looked at my SAT scores or grades or GPA. I just never saw it, only looked at the portfolio. So when you're getting a portfolio together, especially if you're going to like a fine art school or something, be as professional as you can be about it. Like really format it. If it's mostly probably going to be a digital portfolio, like format all your files and organize it as best you can, and have all of your images be, you know, an agreeing ratio or, you know, size. And I just gave every school everything I did. So even the music program, I gave them a visual portfolio, and, you know, poetry, and as well as all my music, I sent the same portfolio to the visual art schools with all the music, and I think even some animation. But yeah, really, and that's part of that kind of selling yourself and being confident, and realizing it is like actually, especially in the art world, it's a pretty small world, and you're not, you know, just this 1 in a million. Like, you're actually pretty, especially with this place, again, you're set up more than most people. So if you really compose your portfolio well and present yourself and sell yourself and be confident, I think that went a long way for me, especially when this decision comes down to, in some cases, only your portfolio.
I have a tip. It would be really cool in your portfolios if you had like a photo that was like stamped by Vogue, correct? You can. The way to do it is Vogue Italia takes photo submissions for their like online blog. They stamp their logo on it. You have a photo that's been like, you know, published by Vogue, and it goes in your portfolio, and it does you wonders. I would change something, not necessarily about a project, about any project, but like about my attitude, like in and after freestyle. My parents were very adamant with me when they told me we would talk about various career paths, and it was like a very exciting conversation. I'm sure you like do the same with your parents or your friends. And whenever we'd get to engineering, they would be like, "Oh, you don't want that. You just like sit and do like robot things, right? Like someone tells you what to do and you just implement, and it's boring." And I believed them because, like, I don't know, I didn't have any other information. And so freestyle I saw as this like really creative place, right? Like even though it's digital, I never saw it as the same as engineering, but I think the two bleed over. So right now I'm studying computer science at NYU, and for me, it's the same. It's the same like tools to create what you need to create. Like it's still very visual. It's still very design based, and it's still like creative problem solving. And I wish I hadn't been so afraid of engineering before.
One thing I think I would change would be an attitude thing, as well as, and this I learned throughout college, and I'm still, trying to, I'm catching myself on this today, is to be less project driven and more kind of process driven. And what I mean by that is I would often be very focused on the outcome of that particular project, and I would often miss things about the process that were teaching me, and I wasn't internalizing some of these things to use later in my life. And I would encourage you to, when you're doing your projects, really find what it is in the project that you can take from that and that you can use later on, if it's a technique or if it's just a kind of way of thinking, or if it's maybe it's about meeting a deadline. If you're really worried about a certain project, maybe focus on your time management, or if you want to do something that's more detail, if you're doing visual art and you want to do more a certain technique, maybe be more detail oriented, focus on that, but not on the project itself, but take from it, that technique. I feel like I might have done a project or two that where I cared only about the result and the work itself, and not necessarily investing that time in my own growth. So as you do your units and go through your projects, just kind of be conscious of what it is you're going to take from it, rather than just an actual image or a video at the end of the project.
For me, I think the biggest thing, not necessarily project, but just being able to, I think I focused too much on each project. I think some of the times I went a little over the top on it, and I didn't explore with kind of my options as much as I could have, and using the resources that are here as well as I could have. So I didn't go on the weekends. I never went and shot some guy pouring honey on someone.
Not too late.
Yeah. But just stuff like that, I really don't, there's just really not an opportunity to do that later. You might be lucky, you might end up in a program that's very similar to this, and then maybe you'll have the opportunity, but the chances of that happening are very slim. There's just so much to do here, and there's so much freedom you have, and I think that if you're going to get graded and you're going to get a good grade and you're going to have fun doing it, and you get to pour honey on someone, or if it's not even related to a grade, I think that's something you should be spending your time on, because it's enjoyable, and it will make you happy, and it will make everything that you do here even more. It makes you feel accomplished with yourself, and it makes you feel satisfied that what you did here mattered. And even if it doesn't matter for anyone else, it could just matter for you. And I think for some people, they don't realize that, and I think that you have to make sure that you make yourself happy too while you're here. It doesn't necessarily matter about pulling the A every time. It doesn't necessarily matter about that. It's just enjoying that you have what you have here, because it's going to be gone.
I think that goes further too than just here. We mentioned this in our other session, finding a balance, and I might be just speaking to some of you who really want to pursue your life as an artist. I know for me, college was really a struggle in terms of I really wanted to better myself, and that's fine, that's great, but I didn't want anything else. So I ended up really isolating myself and only focusing on my work, and by the end of college I was super depressed and really, really critical of my work, and I just made nothing that I liked. So it's important to find a balance. You can really intensely go at whatever you're trying to go at, but also it's okay to step back, and it's really healthy to take your mind off of it and do fun things and clear your mind and still have fun and be young, and you've got a lot of time to work on your craft, and you need to find a balance. Like everyone has their own balance, and you got to find yours.
We have questions from the audience. This is your time. We have 10 minutes. Plenty of time for questions. Go for it, Raul.
How much work on average per project? I know it's like a really broad question considering each project's different, but like how much would one expect to work to put out a good product, meaning I know it's self-initiated, etc.
Wait, I see a problem with the question.
Yeah.
You work until something's like at its minimum. You let people watch, see, use, whatever, and then you work from there. You can always be working on something. I can't imagine a world in which we have this project is going to take 40 hours. That's no fun.
Yeah, for me, I mean, my most honest answer would be I have not ever finished anything. And I mean, I honestly still am workshopping and showing people and remixing and reworking songs that I wrote for my senior project. I don't think any of my work is ever done. There's a point, where it's done. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're really gonna take a project seriously and put yourself into it and try to get something out of it, you do have to have that intuition of, what should a finish point be? What should a stopping point be? Am I there yet? Am I honest with myself about this really feeling done, this piece of work? Because there are those kind of cadences when you're working on something. And I mean, how much I would work on a project. I remember doing a lot of extracurricular, going to places and photographing subjects and not being happy with it and going out and doing it again, or writing music at home, for long hours, just because I didn't think it was done yet, or I didn't think I would reach that stopping point. And the further you go with that, the more intuition you'll have. The more you work with something, the more you get to know it as just this other almost living thing, and you're kind of interacting with your work until you'll see, you'll definitely see when, and you'll start to feel, oh, this is getting close. This is what I need to do to get to this stopping point. And maybe that's not the end, but unfortunately a lot of, working with quarters and semesters, you have to have an ending point or a grading point. But I also encourage you not to think of that as the end and to keep working on things and challenging the actual product. If you ever think anything is just totally done, I would love to talk to you about it.
Yeah, as I've said, there really isn't an answer. I don't have an answer to that. So, sorry.
Did you guys
Questions? Go for it.
Did you guys succeed in all your classes here? Or did you kind of trail behind somewhere?
Here, I thought I was successful in my classes. I was probably an average of a B- student overall in high school, but when I got to freestyle, I really found this place where I could take the classes more seriously, because I felt like they were maybe taking me a little more seriously. So I felt like just engaging in the class, no matter what it was, no matter what my grade was at the end, or what the end of my project was, how finished I felt it was, just really engaging in the classwork and trying to take something from it and make yourself grow from that, I think is how you would measure success in a place like this. Or at least that's how I did, and I feel like I came away with a lot.
I actually struggled with this a lot. Grades still are very important to me, right? And it really mattered to me that I was a 4.0 student, right? That really, really mattered. But on the other hand, how can you possibly grade a film that someone makes? How can you assign that a letter? And sometimes sometimes I felt do I compromise kind of what I want to make in order to get a certain grade? And that balance was actually very difficult, and I don't think I ever resolved it for myself.
For me, success was it was based on grades for me at the beginning, but then as you kind of work your way through it, I realized, because I mean, in traditional high school settings, there is no other, they don't really care. It's all about the numbers for them. So I learned through high school, it's like, that's what matters, that's what I'm going to do. Then I get here and like, I still feel that I need to get that, but if I don't get there, it's not the end of the world. So some of my projects, if I didn't get a full A on it, that's fine. I still felt that if I put enough work into it, and if I felt good with it, then it was good enough for me. And I know most of the teachers always give you a second chance to edit your work, go back. So if you don't feel successful with what you did at that time, you can always go and make it better if that is what matters to you.